Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. We're in chapter 2, verse 12, and last time Solomon went into great detail describing the experiment of his life, the grand experiment of his life, and all the things that he tried on for size to see if those would be the things that would produce a meaningful life. He talked about pleasure. He talked about acquisition. He talked about achievement, and he talked about accomplishment. And all of those things were ultimately only pleasurable in the brief moment that you were experiencing them, and then they left you again with nothing. We've talked a lot about how he's described this closed loop, and we're really going to have the beautiful poetic description of this in chapter 3, beginning with verse 1. But he's not permitted eternity in. However, we long for something beyond this existence under the sun, and this is what he's going to be wrestling with today. I've lived this life. I've accomplished all these things. I've enjoyed everything. Yeah, it was fun when it lasted, but it didn't last very long. And now I'm left with nothing. And this is going to be his preliminary thoughts on the findings of his experiment. Chapter 2, verse 12. So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. What can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. I saw there is no more gain in wisdom than in folly. There is no more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has his eyes in his head. The fool walks in darkness, and yet I perceive that the same event happens to all of them. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For of the wise, as of the fool, there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and a striving after the wind. He has eliminated thoughts of eternity from his equation. The Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 that if there is no resurrection, we are of all men the most to be pitied. And this is a man feeling exactly that way. Feeling that I've had this wisdom, and so I get it. So what? I get it. Not only does that not give me anything else in life that a foolish person who doesn't get anything has, but nobody's even going to remember that I got it. And he just, when he tries to conduct this experiment in this closed loop that he's established for himself, what he ends up with is less than nothing. It's despair. It's not just the nothingness that is the balance, the 0 point between negative and positive. No, it tilts towards the negative because he understands. And that's why, in this preliminary consideration, he says wisdom is no better than madness and than folly. Those are two different things. Madness being something that we experience, a malady. If your brain is an organ in your body, then you can have an unhealthy brain the way you can have an unhealthy heart. Madness or folly, just not caring and pursuing, foolishness for its own sake. And he says, wisdom isn't any better. Not in this experiment that I've conducted, the way I've conducted it. And if this is all there is, I hate life. And that's where he's left. And that is cautionary to all of us. When we feel like there is no God or that evil will triumph, if we allow ourselves to truly believe that, why are we even here? Life has meaning because of hope. Hope has meaning because of God. He's going to start to let God in a few verses, but we still have to look at a few more where he gives full rein, full vent to his despair. And he has to, because this is a piece of inductive learning, not deductive learning. I mean, it is deductive in that he's conducted an experiment and he has gathered the evidence and he's deducing from the evidence, certain conclusions. But it's also inductive in that he is forcing us to experience his reaction with him. He's forcing us to feel his despair as he feels it. He's giving full vent to it, full rein to it. And so when he's just brokenhearted and, when he has busted his knuckles, he's going to bust ours too. And we have a few more verses of that until by the end of the chapter, we start to let God in. And then we start seeing some light. So we'll pick up with verse 18 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.